Okay, so welcome to this extra video for COMP3218, that's Game Design and Development at the University of Southampton. My name's Dave Millard, I'm one of the lecturers on the course. I'm here with...
I'm Tom Black, I'm another lecturer on the course.
So we're going to have a quick look in a game in this video that we had some trouble getting to work before. So we've got it up and running on a Windows machine, and we're going to go through it. Before we do that though, Tom, do you want to say quickly what we asked the students to do?
So for this coursework, we were focusing on storytelling within games. So we wanted to see evidence of a story engine. So something something where the gameplay could affect the narrative, and the narrative would affect the gameplay. And the students were able to make their game based on one of 3 fairy tales, and this group I think chose Rapunzel.
Brilliant. Okay, so let's have a look at what they've done. Aha! So you've got some funky pixel art going on.
So this is a test. I don't know her. Try to get some ...
Try to get something. Okay, so try to place item on hair.
Stand next to the hair and select the inventory. So pick up his space. So the movement controls in this one, I remember, are a little bit odd. It's Q and D to move.
Yes, they said Q and D for moving left and right, space for picking up an item. So this was in their game notes.
And then clicking to actually activate the item. So already there's a bit of a disconnect between some of the...
Because you're moving from mouse to keyboard, yeah.
So there are a bunch of items on the ground. So it looks like we've got... Is that hair conditioner maybe?
Could be.
We've got some water.
Some water. It looks like a poo emoji.
I was going to say some sort of emoji. I don't know what that could be.
Yeah. Okay.
Over here, what do we got over here? So we got a comb over here.
Comb.
More and
some scissors.
Some more hair products. So all right, let's start with the comb. That seems safe. So
yeah.
Space.
So we pick up the comb. Pick up the comb. It's in our inventory. There it is.
So now if we walk back over to the hair.
Yeah.
And then that text. I think triggers there, but when we click on it, it says, because the princess got the flu, you must seek to obtain ... What do we seek to obtain now that she's got the flu?
I don't know. I can't imagine hair conditioner is going to help her very much.
Yeah. What
else have we got? So some kind of, what's that?
Don't know. Should we try this one?
Does it tell us what it is if we pick it up?
Nope. Oh wait, hang on. No, it just says inventory.
So it's worth saying that when you pick that up, you are leaning to within about 8 inches of the screen to try and say what it says.
So I think the resolution is a little bit...
Yeah, the writing's pretty small. So whatever that is.
Not space. You've got to click on it.
Click.
You said your last prayer to the minister, and he gave you his favourite... ...
So the minister has given us... He's not likely to give us hair products.
He gave us his favourite bucket of water?
Possibly. Now, it may be me, but this is feeling quite random.
A little bit.
I think I get what they're doing. They're basically... We're trying to do a little puzzle matching.
Last night you fought the garden gnome. If only you had the special...
Gnome repellent?
Maybe that's what this is, maybe. Yeah, let's get this. This is... End of game. I guess you made some effort, and my hair is still in good shape. You will need to proof yourself, though.
And that's it.
So if we use nice items on our hair,
we
get a... So that's actually the first time I've gotten a semi-good ending on this. Normally I think I try and cut her hair, and she doesn't like that. Let's try and do this.
Let's try the...
Everyone's itching to see what happens.
Let's try the poo emoji. Okay, here we go.
The princess has got the flu again.
So
that doesn't seem to have actually affected.
So it doesn't seem to affect the series. Did we get the same series of questions each time? That's the interesting
Let's
question.
Try the scissors this time.
So scissors. Yep.
Don't seem to be able to pick these up.
So it's left and right. So just to get this right, you space to pick up.
Yep. Oh, I don't seem to be able to pick anything up now. I can pick up the comb, but not these.
And they indicate that you do that by showing you a button that looks like you have to click it. And above the button is an icon that doesn't look like you have to click it, but which you do actually have to click to use it.
Correct.
Yeah, I think the control system here is very mixed up. I think.
We got the same text about the prayer from the minister or something.
Right. Okay. So let's try that one.
So last night you got a gnome again. So that doesn't seem to have changed.
So nothing's changing.
Let's try the scissors.
Yeah. Can we pick up the scissors?
Don't seem to be able to pick these up.
No scissors.
Oh, no, there we go.
Oh, there you go. Got it.
Slightly weird hitbox. So don't worry, Rapunzel. This won't hurt a bit. End of game. Wow, you really don't know me at all, do you? I'm afraid we can no longer be together. So It does technically change the ending.
Yeah. So basically what's going on here is we have a little puzzle game where we get set conundrums from Rapunzel.
Test. 1, 2, 3,
we
1,
have
2,
to
3.
pick up an item that we think matches that question, and then based on how well our items match, we get an alternative ending at the end. Right?
Seems to be.
Okay. So, I mean, the fundamental problem really is in the logic.
So A, identifying what these things are, B, knowing when to use them.
So there are a number of issues here, right? So we've talked about the control issue. Yeah. So there is a big information problem, right? So the questions are difficult to read. So I can't read them at all. You're right in front of the machine and you're leaning in and you can read them, but I can't read them at all. I'm all of, I don't know, I'm not even 3 feet away, but I can't read them. Perhaps more importantly, we don't really know what they are. So some of them are obvious. That looks like a comb.
Comb and the scissors, right? Fair enough. The two bottles.
But there's bottles of something.
Oh, I did perfectly.
Oh,
I don't know how.
You did it perfectly. No more bad roots or knots.
So I think I used this one.
Yeah.
And then the comb and then the water, possibly. I don't know. See, this is the thing. I'm still not sure how I did this.
And I'm not. And also, it's so okay. So we're not sure what the items are. We're not really sure what the questions are asking either.
I'm certainly not sure how they relate to...
I'm not sure whether they're supposed to be cryptic. I'm not sure whether you're supposed to ignore them and just put the hair products in. So that when we talk about meaningful choice, there is no meaningful choice really, because we really don't understand what's happening here.
Particularly, there's no... And when we use it, there's no sort of hint as to whether it was a good thing or a bad thing, because we get the same question every time.
Yeah. Well, let's go through our criteria here. So the first one is quality. So there is a game here. You can play the game.
It's quite simple. The controls are a bit weird.
We asked for a small scope, but I think this is probably a little bit too small.
Yeah.
And there really isn't enough going on really to demonstrate an awful lot. But what is here works. And the graphics, I mean, they're consistent. They've kind of gone for that sort of pixelated look. There's no sound. There's was there
might have been something. I'm not sure if that was something running in the background or if it was a sound effect from this.
In terms of the controls, we've got the controls written in game notes, but
it did take us a while to figure that out when we first.
But they're not. But were they on the screen when you started? There's nothing in the game.
The space, I think.
Yeah. So there's a kind of lack there. So in terms of the quality, I think consistency looks good, but a bit too simple. And actually, I would put the information feedback into that as well. I think the fact that you really don't know what's going on is a problem. Let's talk about the story engine. So
there is definitely one there, because we got a different ending depending on what items were used.
Yep.
But is it meaningful in terms of agency?
Yes. So their game notes say each item basically has a score for that stage. If an item is used when it's supposed to, it will give you 3 points. If you use a good item but not properly, so in the wrong stage, then it will only give you 1 point. And then an item that damages hair or a bad item will decrease the score by 3 points. And then when the game arrives at the last stage, we compare the player score with those thresholds, and depending on how well they answered, they get a different ending. Right, so that's basically what I think we thought was going on. So what's happening there is your actions within the game are definitely affecting the story that you're getting. The delivery of that story is very, very,
very
limited, but it is there.
I mean, it's essentially one of 3 lines at the end.
So it's a very, very simple thing, but it is there. There's nothing going the other way, though. There's nothing about the current state of the story impacting on the story world. There's no feedback.
That's it. When I use an item, it's not even like Rapunzel doesn't sort of say like, "Oh, that was terrible. Try something else."
Yeah. So there's no kind of feedback whatsoever to what you're doing, and that feedback could have been part of that. Could have been part of that story engine affecting the game world. You're right. Okay, and also in terms of meaningful choice, I think we've got some problems because you don't really know what you're choosing and why. You're not really making any kind of meaningful choice about which direction you're going.
So, I mean, from the game notes, it says, "Oh yeah, use nice items to make Rapunzel happy."
Yeah.
And I guess we could have sort of inferred that.
Yeah.
But even in terms of just framing the game, it doesn't, like, I'm really struggling to see the relation sort of between those enigmas
Yes.
and picking combs.
Yeah.
I don't know what garden gnomes have to do with hair care products.
So, and then the last thing that we were looking at was the kind of the narrative techniques, if you like. So,
yeah, sort of do mechanics as metaphor and the sort of the writing techniques that they use.
Yeah. So have they used kind of we talked about things like in media res, we talked about things like using character archetypes, those kind of stuff. So how have they done there?
So technically, it starts in medias res in that we're sort of right at we're at the foot of the tower. Rapunzel's sort of talking to us.
Yes.
But there's no real payoff to it. When you're using in medias res, normally you have to sort of resolve the unanswered questions, whereas here,
no,
they're not.
It's like a little vignette rather than a resolved piece, isn't it? In terms of the...
Even within this, there's not really a great deal of sort of arc.
No. So in terms of the arc, it's too... This is where it's too short, really. I think even if they'd repeated it again, maybe if you came back on multiple days and there were different questions and different tasks, so the engine can be exactly the same. It really would have been quite small amounts of effort to put in a 3 or 4 days of progress with different things on each day, giving you some kind of arc and some kind of story. The characters, they've not really used any kind of the archetypes that we talked about. And in terms of the mechanics as metaphor, I mean, it's difficult to kind of think about the themes of Rapunzel, but they are about kind of confinement and escape and kind of that key motif of the hair. So the hair is here, the motif is present, but really they haven't explored any other elements of the story or really linked. The puzzle matching doesn't really match what they're doing. So yeah, kind of like a little playable piece, but it just feels like it really doesn't have the kind of narrative structure that we were asking for, and probably not enough game to kind of demonstrate some of the other elements we were thinking about.
That's it. It's definitely something that I can see being extended further, though, and sort of actually sort of crafting some more, even just descriptions of these items and things like that. Sort of tie together a little story of why you're brushing Rapunzel's hair and
what her feedback is, and that would give you some point to do some characterization, right? So
exactly.
Her reactions to the different things you're doing. You could make it quite humorous. It could be, I think that you can make these kind of games quite interesting in terms of narrative. They've also not used any particular techniques we talked about, like kind of cutscenes or dialogue or anything like that. So again, just really something up front to tell you that information would have been quite useful. And as I said, I don't think you need much more in the actual game engine itself. I think the coding is here to support it, right? I think you just need to have complexity in terms of like a sequence of days, some topping and tailing, and a little bit more interaction when you're putting the trying to use the items on the hair.
So yeah, it's definitely got potential.
I do like the way you're exploring. You're determined to see what is offered.
See, how far I can go.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised they haven't stopped you. But there you are. Okay,
right, should we wrap up?
I think we should wrap up. So that was just the one video for this session. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again in other videos.